Hello, hello. Okay, cool. It's recording now. Share screen, higher screen.
Ready?
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you guys for coming to the workshop today. The way this is kind of going to work is we're going to go through a little bit of a PowerPoint. You're going to talk about web frameworks, Angular, and then I'll go in with a demo. Okay, so my boy here got y'all for the next
Hello, guys. My
bit.
name is Eugene. Welcome to the Web Frameworks Angular workshop. This is my first workshop, so if I do something wrong, just let me know. Right, let's just dive in. So before we get started, I hope you all understand what the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and TypeScript is. If you don't know what the TypeScript is, just basically type version of a JavaScript. It's just this syntactic sugar, I would say. And there is a separate compiler for that, of course. So whenever you build your code, it automatically converts into a JavaScript and serves it to a web browser. But you don't really need to worry about it right now. It looks very similar to Java if you know Java before, so it would be useful. All right, so let's get some definitions straight. So what's a web framework? It's basically like a collection of tools that somebody wrote for you already and define all the components and the code, and you just basically use it. It's just like a recipe, you know, if you bake a cake, so you use a pre-made recipe somebody came up with already, and so you just follow the instructions. And you can, of course, take some liberty, you know, in between those steps. So that's kind of what the framework is. And we have like two examples for the back end and the front end frameworks. So React is the most popular one. I hope you all heard of that. Vue.js and AngularJS as well. Is a two front end frameworks that are commonly used. And we also have some back end frameworks. Express.js, very lightweight framework for backend. Django for Python, very popular framework. For instance, Instagram was built with Django. And Ruby on Rails. It's another framework used with Ruby programming language. So here's some statistics for you. For the most used frameworks in 2024. We got Node.js, but I wouldn't consider it as a framework. It's just like a foundation of the web development tools. So that's why I used to ask you to install it. Without it, we wouldn't be able to install all those frameworks like React, Next.js, jQuery, Express, Angular, Vue, also AngularJS, Nest.js. Well, all of those frameworks are basically based on the Node.js. By the way, the difference between AngularJS and the Angular is that AngularJS is for just plain JavaScript, and Angular is with the TypeScript, which is the most modern version of Angular. So why do we really need a framework, right? So simply it just makes your life easier. So like when you want to drive a bicycle, ride a bicycle, right? You wouldn't build a new bicycle from the scratch. You wouldn't come up with the concept of a bicycle or a wheel, etc. So that's why we need a framework. So it creates a consistency, code reusability, and common language, I would say. So it's like regular language, so we understand what we're talking about here. That's basically why we need a framework. So let's just start talking about Angular. I would call it a Swiss Army knife for web development because it includes a lot of things, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Also, it's maintained by Google since 2016. I mean, it was created in 2011, but it was actively maintained by Google since 2016. So it's kind of enterprise focused, whereas React is more open source and pet project type of framework, but it's also pretty popular. A lot of job descriptions right now for more bigger companies, they all asking you to know Angular, so that could be useful to know. So yeah, that's the difference between the Angular and the AngularJS I described previously. So let's talk about the four concepts of Angular. So we have components, data binding, services, and routing. And there are other bunch of stuff that you can look up later, but we don't really have time to talk about all of that. So I'll just cover four major things. So components. How many of you are familiar with the concept of components here? That's pretty much a lot of people. I think most of them. So yeah, components is just the building blocks of the major applications or any type of applications in the web development. And I think not only web development, if you're using React Native, there is also, since you're using React, it's also components based. Components is basically everything you see on the screen can be defined as components. So navigation, bars, containers, buttons, paragraphs, footers, etc. So in Angular, you have the concept of view, which is basically like a UI. So what you see on the screen. Also, you have a data, which is like a content of the component. So it gives the behavior to a component. And we have a logic. So logic is some functional actions that component could take. For instance, if you click a button, it might display some message. So, and here's like some example of components, how you could break up a to-do app into components. So you can have a to-do list and you have to-do metrics, and to-do list could be broken down into to-do list item. So, but also those smaller components can also be broken down in further and further down the component tree. So that's a nice conceptual visualization of a component tree. So here's also a code snippet from the actual Angular code, simple Angular component. So here we have some metadata. So standalone just means it can be compiled by itself. And here's a selector. It is basically how you can select the component from other elements in the document object model of HTML. And here's a very important part, it's template. It's basically describes the HTML element or the actual UI of the component. So it's just a basic list item. And here's some message. Here's also you can find the styles that you can style a component itself. And at the bottom, it's the component's behavior, which is defined as a TypeScript class. So that's just like a basic example. For instance, I also could do more modularized way of writing Angular. For instance, you don't have to specify the style in HTML here. You can create a separate files for this component called app.component.html for HTML and app.component.css for CSS. So, but we just put it all together in one example. So the second core principle of Angular is data binding. So it basically synchronizes UI that you see on the screen with the actual data that you have in the code, right? So if something changes to our data, the UI is changing as well. Or if UI is changing, the data is changing as well. So it's a bidirectional relationship. So we have two ways of binding the data. Like I said, we have bidirectional two-way binding, and we have one-way binding when we have only one change from the UI to the data, or from the data to UI. So yeah, it keeps the UI automatically updated and enhances interaction without page reloads. This is very important, actually. So Angular is famous for SPAs, which is single page applications. So whenever something changes on the page, we don't have to actually reload it or recompile it. That's why it's very effective and efficient. Yeah. So let me show you some architecture here. So Angular is based on model view template architecture. So we have a model, which is our TypeScript class, where we define the state of a component. And we have a view, which defines the UI of a component. Actually, it's UI itself, right? So that's what we see. And template is the definition of the UI. The HTML and CSS is combined here. So whenever we have the change in view, we update the model. We update the state of a component. And whenever we have a change in data, we update the view. And so when we have also update in our data, we display the data in the component, right, in the template. And we also can provide the user input through the template and update the view. So that's just a simple overview of the architecture. And here's the diagram of the one-way binding and two-way binding. So one-way binding is basically we have model and template. So they all both together define the component, and we provide the view, the UI. And whenever we have two-way binding, the view is updating the model, the UI, meaning UI is updating the model, and the model can update the UI at the same time. So it's bidirectional binding. So let me just show you the examples, how it is written in code. So here's we have the expression, double curly braces. Does anyone know what it means? Like, what are we doing here? Any ideas? So have anyone used React before? Yeah. So basically, it's the same kind of thing. So assume this is like a variable that we have in a TypeScript class, right? So whenever, like, the variable could be a name, right? And so if you want to extract that variable from a TypeScript class and put it in our UI, whatever the state of the variable is currently is, like it could be Andrew, it could be Alice, whatever the name is, we just extract it and put it in our template. I'm gonna show you the code snippet later, but for now we'll just focus on that. So, and this is the example of when the model gives the binding to view. So and also called interpolation. So insertion of something into something. And also we have the one-way binding. So this is property, which is the property of an HTML element, and we have the expression. So for instance, if we have a variable, like, I don't know, the source of the image, and could be the source, right? We could define the source of the image from a variable. So this is one-way binding, right? Since we go from model to view. And the third way, from view to model, when we were expecting the user input and put the user input into the components, components variable, we define the event, what kind of event we expect, like click of a button or like type of an input, and put it into a variable. So this is called the event binding, and then it's also one-way binding. And here's we have bidirectional binding when so we have the double square braces like here, and also we have a circle braces like here. So we basically expect the input from the component, from the UI, and we also expect the input from the model to the UI. So it's bidirectional updates. So let me just show you the example so kind of makes sense. So here we have 4 types of bindings like I described, right? So let's focus on this part first. So this is what is this? So what is this called, like, in terms of the concepts I just said? Like, what is this? View, model, template? What is this? This class? No. Yeah, it's a model. Since it's behavior, right? It defines the programmatic behavior of a component, right? So it looks like basically JavaScript, a Java class or a TypeScript class, whatever, but doesn't have the modifiers here. Doesn't matter. So we define the variables here. We define what the title is. We define the image URL. We define the count. We define the username, and this is a function, right? So if we call this function, the count will be incremented. So this is just basic behavior. We have some members and we have some functions. So, and here, what is this? Any ideas? Yeah, it is template. There you go. It's called a template here. So, so basically, this is just at the top. I don't know. You cannot see it really. There is like import. We just import the stuff from Angular library, and this is like called a directive or decorator. In Python, there is the same concept of decorator, but don't worry about it. It's just basically here we define the template or the UI, the template UI. We can define the CSS, and we also can define the HTML here. And so here we actually do the data binding. So we bind the template to the data that we have in the class, right? So they all connected here. So the title could be anything here. It could change during the code execution, right? That the user can type any, or we can type any code, or the user can change the title through the UI, through the interaction of the application. So that's why we do interpolation. We just interpolate this variable into this template. And so here we basically do the extraction of the binding of this variable to the source property of that element, the HTML element right here. So this is the property element that I talked about. And here we have the event binding. So whenever the button is being clicked, this function right here will be called, right? So we did provide the circle braces, and then we specify the function, and here we do also the interpolation at the same time. We just type click, and we interpolated the count variable right here. And finally, we have the bidirectional binding, which is double square braces and the circle braces. And here's just a keyword from Angular. It's ng model. Ng it's Angular model, and we specify what variable we want to listen to. So whenever user types something, right, in the input element, we update the username. We put whatever he typed in the username, and at the same time, the input variable will display whatever he typed in. So this is bidirectional. All right, I hope it makes sense. If not, then you can just ask me later. So let's just move on. And so the third principle of Angular, or the third feature, is services. So services is like basically if we have some service, like some sort of function that we define in some file, and we want to share that function across all the components, we don't want to like define that function again and again in each file. So we can just create that service or the file and just injected or imported into our Angular components. So that's why it says share logic across components. Use a dependency injection for efficiency. Dependency injection, I'll show it in the next slide what it is. It's just like the way for injecting the service and handle data and tasks behind the scenes. So it's just basically you hide the implementation from the user or the developer actually, how you implemented the service. So here's the dependency injection. So it's actually very common software development pattern. You'll probably hear it later in your career. It's a way of organizing your code for providing certain type of service. So it's so basically the main point of that is just, like I said, defining some service outside of the component and then just injecting inside the component. So it's not, they're not connected at all. So, and the way it is done in Angular through the injectable directive, it's the same directive, like the component directive I showed before, but instead of using a component, we use injectable. That means we specify this is a service. And what it does is promotes the reusability and consistency. And here's the example of a service. So okay, let's start from here. Can somebody explain that part? What is this? What do we do here? Yeah, exactly. We define a component, right? We define the template of a component. All right, and what is here? What is called? Again, I already asked you guys. What's that? The model, right? Who said that? I didn't hear. There you go. So, and here's we define some member, the data string, and here we actually, I don't know if you took the Java class, there is a concept of constructor. It's actually called a constructor. So it's basically called whenever you initialize a class. So since we have a service here, so let's come back to here. So this is the service I'm talking about. That's how we define it. So we're using the injectable directive. We define where it is provided in. So we call it root. It basically just, we're saying will be provided through root component, which is the main component of the application, which sits on top of the component tree. And then we have the class data service, the actual service we define here. So, and here we kind of provide a function that returns some data. Let's assume this is like a service itself, right? It could be anything. And so we come back to our model of the component, right? To the class. And here's the constructor we initialize, we define the service we want to inject. And in the implementation of the constructor, we assign the variable that we previously defined, the service that we want to get from here. So as you can see, data service get data, which is the function right here. So, and then you can use that data in the template right there. So do you have guys any questions so far? If I'm going too quick, just let me know. All good? Okay, so let's just move on. Okay, the final principle of the Angular is routing. It's not like Angular specific feature. Any major framework must offer that if you want to provide the single page application experience. So it's basically you can define components which act as pages. So, and then you just hop around in your application, whichever way you defined it, through the routing system that a framework provides. So, and also done without the page reload. So if you jump into a framework, if you jump to a page, you don't have to reload the application itself. You just kind of swap the component. So it is done very quickly. So it's URL driven. That means you define the routing routing, whatever you say. So so you define whatever through the common HTML slash. Like for instance, you have the root slash, right? That's the root page. You're gonna go to the page home page. You put the slash home and whatever you have on the home page. And in that home page, you also can define the query parameters, but it's not really important right now. All right, let's just move on. And I want to show you the beautiful graph here, the diagram of the Angular version 17, but it doesn't really matter because I mean, it's the same as the current version, which is version 18. So for instance, this is like the hierarchy of the files of an Angular application, right? So we have Angular JSON, which connects the main file, which is like a driver file that starts our application. And here's the index HTML, which is like the most important HTML file in our application. And that file, the main TypeScript file, imports our root component. And that root component imports some configuration files. And the configuration files actually defines the routes, right? So where do we go? What should we do? So basically it just tells what is the structure of our application. So it could define the home component, which is the home root or home page, the contact page, about page, plugin, sign up, and notepad. So that's kind of nothing complicated, but if it is, just gonna make sense soon. And here's some helpful resources for you guys. Angular.dev, it's a official website for documentation, and this is the subreddit. If you need some support or you wanna just check out their community, you can go to Reddit, and also the official code base. If you're really into Angular, you wanna help to contribute, fix some bugs, you can check it out as well. And do you have any questions so far? All right, we're good. So let's build the to-do app. Take it.
All right, gang. I'm a firm believer of you learn by doing. So if you don't have your laptop out, pull it out. I'm gonna give you guys two options. One will take a little bit longer than the other, but if you're new to using GitHub, we can create a branch on your GitHub and I can show you how to do it. And after the workshop, you're able to make one of your first pushes to the GitHub. It's either that I show you how to do it and then you fork it from my account and then add updates as you go, right? Because my goal is to provide you guys with the most basic to-do app. And what you want to do is take this and actually put something else. So if I'm giving you a basic to-do app that can add and delete, I want you to add users or something like that to it. Add another page, right? Add a login registration page. You could add in a lot of stuff to this. And this is an app that could easily go on your resume. Remember, you don't have nothing on that resume. Do this. All right. I talked about this a lot last week. Okay. So I know we had some people trickle in. Show of hands who has Node installed on their computer. Everybody, you? All right, cool. I'm gonna give bro like 3-4 minutes to get Node installed. Hop on this website over here. It's gonna be nodejs.org. Man, made it this far. No Node. It's crazy work. You're gonna be using this a lot. A lot. I promise you, everything that you need is through Node. If you have a MacBook, there's Brew, but Node is like a nicer one. So to talk a little bit about Angular, just in a little bit, I'm not gonna be talking about services that much in this project. I'll actually show you guys what it looks like. One moment. You have the website? All right, cool. So I'll show you guys what it is that we're gonna be making today. CD projects. CD. Okay. All right. So CSS styling, I'm not going to go over that much. You can style this the way you want. There's a lot of stuff on Google. You can kind of just copy and paste it if you want. But you're gonna see me copy and paste it. If you have questions about some of the styling, just let me know and I could answer it briefly. But we want to put our main focus on the Angular portion, right? What's up?
Find that styling thing right in the Discord. For my app, so I can talk to this.
Nah, yeah. I'll put it. I'll put the styling app in the Discord. Okay. I'll put it in or like the styling code in Discord. Dylan might get a little antsy about it, but it's all right. We'll deal with that when the time comes. But I'll talk to you guys about this command in a few. So this is as basic as it gets. This is a to-do list. I made this in 15 minutes. Add. I want to eat food. Right. And then we could add, we could delete. Right. Basic to-do app. It's working. Life is great. Cool. All right. Now that he has Node, all of you who has an Angular installed on their computer? None of y'all. Cool. Great. This is good. Now, this is the part where I'll give y'all like 5 minutes to get this installed, okay? Angular docs. Can't spell. This is not the docs. This is the old docs. This usually works when I do it like this. Did they change the website?
No, I think you version 17.
Am I what?
You're on version
Yeah,
17.
Angular 18. I was like, yeah, I know for a fact that. Nope, that's a blog post. My fault.
There you go.
I'll be fibbing sometimes, guys. All right, installation. This command right here. If you have Node installed, you're going to be able to run npm, okay? So I'll give you guys about 4 or 5 minutes to get this taken care of, and then I'll check in again in about, 5, and then we'll see where we're at, and I'll kind of walk you guys through it, okay? Angular is a very great framework. Thank God they removed the JavaScript part of it because it was horrible using it when JavaScript was on it. If you know, don't be alarmed if you don't know that much JavaScript or anything like that. You can stop me in the middle of this and ask me what something is, and I'll help you out. But for the most part, we're going to be focused more on the framework than the actual syntax. And then afterwards, I want everybody here to actually add something to this, okay? The point of it being this basic is so that you could add something to it. And that way you have something to show for it at least. And for those of you who want to know how popular Angular is, I've done 3 internships. All 3 of them had me use Angular. So it's very wildly used. A lot of people I know use it at their internships, at their jobs. So I would highly suggest that you guys pick this up or React. It's kind of up to you. The main difference between it is React combines a lot of the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You can write that all in one file. The other one, it's more separate, a little bit more modular, in my opinion. I like Angular better than React, but that's just a personal opinion, and that's what I've been forced to use for the last year. So, yeah. Let me know if you guys need help installing it or you guys have any errors that pop up. Oh, word? All right. What's up?
So do I install it on the project? Or do I install on? Thank you.
So type in that command there, then you hit enter.
Right.
You guys good?
If we did it on the last,
This week.
last workshop.
I'm working out there right now.
I'll help you out.
So, okay.
Just I'll help you out at the end. Okay? If you guys have GitHub questions from anything, and like if you went to the Git workshop yesterday and something didn't click and you need help, just let me know. I'll help you out.
I got it.
I wasn't there yesterday. It was unfortunate.
Okay. You're on your, two.
All right, now?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. I'm fine. You got it right.
I'm a house show. I'm not sure. I think.
Not you.
Not sure. Are you using WSL?
What is that?
Don't worry about creating a new project for right now. I'll help you guys out with that in a few. Just worry about the installation.
What'd you write? Did you write that down? Like it's. I think you're on. It sounds like I got this part. You in? I think. Okay, why are you laughing?
Well, NPM is general.
Is that in the bag?
Rob, in the back.
Maybe it's like. Oh, yeah.
Now that you brought it up, I have like half a sample. You guys got it?
Yeah. Oh, you might wait. I think your permission is for.
How can I?
That should be.
Oh, yeah, but I'll open up the.
Probably running for that.
Once you install it, you're not.
Wait, you just ran in.
You guys good?
Yeah.
Guys set up?
We have, yes, some, you got like some errors.
Are you using the notes?
Trail of
Like,
stuff.
you know?
Yeah, no, you're good.
Wait, I can check this.
This has to, yeah, it tells you to add a directive to.
Oh, and this is, yeah, it's insane. Yeah, I just. It's just,
Are you okay now? Maybe?
Sorry, what am I?
Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
This will install the latest version.
Are you good?
Yeah, I just got here. I was wondering, where did you get JPM from?
Do you not have Node?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just got it.
So I'm gonna show you real quick. Go to this website right here. It's gonna be nodejs.org. You're on HP, so yeah. Once you install it, don't use the node command prompt. Open up a bare bones command prompt, and then you'll use the Angular command. Okay?
Do any bash?
Not really, no. It's fine. Just use normal command prompt on Windows. It's perfectly fine.
The soul is on that.
Probably should have asked this. Does everybody have like a VS Code or something like that installed? Something they can hopefully. Maybe. All right, cool. Intro to IDEs is a few weeks away. I don't want to have to bring it now.
Yeah. That's what I did, yeah. But I code spaces, like, yeah. No, but it's like, what? That's why I'm trying to go to the GitHub. It's like, you know how to use GitHub. Like, I just found out this is a thing. It's just, but it just like.
So you just. All right. Everybody got it installed? Life is good? All right, cool. While homie over there is getting ready, I'll talk a little bit about kind of creating an Angular application. This is kind of the way that I like to set it up, at least. Generally, the good thing about Angular is it's very modular, right? And anytime you create a component that you know you're going to need for a different part of your project, you want to make it reusable, right? Always make your code reusable in case you're going to need it somewhere else, okay? Now, the good thing with Angular is you can actually generate a lot of this stuff in the command prompt. I'm going to show you guys how to do this from scratch, right? So everybody that has their terminal up right now, you're going to type in ng new Angular workshop. That's going to be the name of the application. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name it Angular workshop. All right. When I hit enter, you're going to see it ask me which kind of style sheet format I want to use. You can use CSS, SASS. It's CSS, but you could add a little bit of extra to it. We're just going to use CSS for this workshop. Servers. Oh, wait, sorry. I forgot that new Angular kind of has this feature. Everybody close your command prompt. I got to talk to you guys about this feature because this is gonna, at least for newer folks, this feature is gonna help you a little bit. So my bad. ng new Angular workshop. And then I want you to do -- no standalone. Okay. So the reason I'm having you do this is because Angular what's up? Oh, can you? Sorry. Is that a little bit better, maybe? No? Yep, sorry. Can I? Man, what's this? How's that look? Better? All right, perfect. So the reason I'm having you guys do no standalone is because Angular decided to add this wonderful feature where it's essentially a standalone application, right? No standalone allows you to essentially have something called app module. App module will take in all of your imports, right? These imports will hold, anytime you generate a new component, it automatically goes to the app module, which is why I'm having you guys do this. So we don't have to go through the hassle of importing it into 6 different files, okay? This is how I make my applications. You're not required to do it either which way. It's up to you on how you want to do it. This is how I prefer it, okay? This is how I've always done it. This is how I'm going to continue to do it because I hate importing a million different things, right? So, see, oh, sorry. No stand. There we go. Sorry. Remove that like extra dash. So we're going to go with CSS, server side rendering to static site generation. One is generated on a server, one is generated just based off of your local machine. Honestly, does not matter which one you do. I'll hit yes. Oh, I'm lying. My fault. My computer, I've written this code at least like once or twice already. So this thing is probably gonna give me problems. Let me know if it did it go through for you guys? It went through for you? All right, cool. Yeah, for me, unfortunately, it's cooked. Let's see. CSS. Oh, no, my bad. I forgot that I actually generated this project already. So I'm gonna have to rename it. Gonna rename it Angular. CSS. Yes to the server-side rendering, and then it'll install. Just let me know when you guys have the application installed. Like fully. What's up? Oh, leave that slash. That little dash. Yeah, leave that dash. Same thing, just remove that dash. Two, okay. So. Yeah, so dash dash, no dash.
Was that?
Everybody in the back, okay? Okay. We got time, we got time. If you need help, just let me know and just stop. I'll come by.
Sorry.
When it's like, bro, you run. Oh, so it's not even. When you click, when you type node, it starts the interpreter.
It's like chips.
It's just like node interprets in JavaScript.
Oh, that's it.
But you will have to do, you have to type. No, it's all, but the problem is, the thing, on the G, because I don't know the, on that. Run.
Yeah, who did this on Node?
Yeah.
I just did it, yeah, I didn't, well, I made it, so, I made like, yes, like a rendering, like, couple stuff, and that's just like. did it. So. Are you?
Yeah.
Everybody that's creating it right now, make sure you hit CSS. SACSS or SASS is CSS, but you can add imports and do weird shit.
I don't know. So I'm like. But not what it's like, so. I remember that. There's like. Probably. Bro. Well, you check to see if it actually gets security, because last time it showed up here. Oh, yeah, you have it. Since you got it. Oh, wait, so you don't have to use it. Oh, you know, you don't have to command for it. Only I don't have probably. You can open it though. Pretty sure. Because you have, see, you have the folder. That's it.
I am. It's just like a computer. What it? Gotta remove the. Oh, yeah, it's not later.
Yeah, well,
Just making sure everybody created this project already. Yay, nay, cool, alright. So now that we've created this project, we want to go ahead and open this up in VS Code, all right? This, where I open up this stuff right here too, because I'm not doing this by memory at the moment. Too tired for that. All right, CD projects, ls cd Angular. I think I named this app. All right. So if you don't have that command installed, I'll show you how to install it at some point. But when you first get in and you first create a bare bones Angular application, these are the first things you're going to see, right? You're going to have a source folder, an app folder, main TSS or main TS styles.css. Now, generally, when I'm using Angular, you will never see me use styles.css or app component at all. I generate most of the components, and anything that I want to be shown will then be put into my app component or my app HTML component, right? Because in these components is where I'm doing most of the styles. Now, styles.css, if your application is going to have just one all-around style throughout every single page, throughout every single component. You good?
Yeah.
Oh, then, yeah, then, sorry, lost my footing. Okay. So what was I saying? Somebody remind me, my fault.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, that. So styles.css. If you're doing like one page, 2 pages that are gonna have the exact same styling, then I recommend you use that. Otherwise, don't worry about it, right? So let me zoom this in a little bit. You guys can see it decently? Yay? Cool. All right. Something cool about Angular is that ng command that I showed you, that's your bread and butter for Angular, right? This is where you'll generate your components, your services, etc. For right now, we're just going to use one component for this project specifically. Okay. Now, what's up? Oh, if you don't have this command, go to where the folder is, open up VS Code, and then drag and drop it into the folder section. So ng, again, like I said, your bread and butter. This is what you're going to use to actually generate your component, run the Angular application, okay, which is what we're actually about to start doing, all right? ng, oh, why am I brain farting this now? Okay, sorry. ng serve dash dash open. Dash dash open opens the web browser automatically. I will show you how both look, okay? So if I did ng serve, oh God, come on, man. My bad, y'all. Just give me a sec. Your node file should be installed. My computer just hates me, so it makes me install this. I gotta go through all this.
NPM dependencies.
Yeah, okay. Let this go through. Okay, cool. ng serve. All right. It's gonna ask if Google wants to invade my privacy. I'm gonna say yes because I want a job with them. And then you're gonna see this localhost website pop up. You'll go ahead and click that. And boom, you guys got your first Angular workshop. It's exciting. It's the end of the workshop, guys. I appreciate you guys for coming today. But no, you're good, you're good. Okay, so good? Okay, cool. So this is the bare bones Angular application that you'll have when you do this, okay? Now to begin the to-do app. Actually, hold up. Let me show y'all how it is with the directive. All right. If I did ng serve dash dash open, saves me the hassle of having to click around, try and hit the link. I won't lose the link. If you're new to this and new to web dev, just know that every time that you save something in your code, it will update automatically on this page. So do not close out this page. Okay. So if I were to come here into this app component and name this boo-boo, Hello, boo boo. All right. So you guys can see that little update right there. The project name is going to be boo boo now. All right. Let's go ahead. All right. So generally, like I said, I don't use app component, right? I'm going to delete all this, all of it completely cleared out. You don't have to touch the app.component type script, nothing like that. Don't tell me I messed this up. Did I run this non-standalone? You guys have a an app module, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. One sec. Ah, it's great. G new app 2. Nope. I hate having to do it every single time, but unfortunately I have to do it every single time. G new to do app 3 / no standalone. CSS, yes. My bad. I'm generating a new app. Just give me like a business minute or two. City to do app 3. Okay, app module right there. This is what I told you guys will be holding a lot of the imports, right? Unless you're using a service and importing it into like a component for some of the data that you're going to be getting, then this is generally where a lot of your stuff is going to be imported to, right? Anytime you generate a new component, you're going to see it appear here. So we're actually going to create a new component right now like this, ng generate component. And we're going to name this to do dashboard or something like that, right? Go ahead and hit enter. Yes, I'll share it with Google, whatever. Okay, cool. So you see here, I generated a new component. We have nothing in the CSS. It says to do dashboard works, to do dashboard component. Let me remove all the crap that's here. All right. ng serve -- open, right? So after removing everything from app component, you see that we have a blank page, nothing on it, right? So inside of the component file, you're going to see a selector. This selector, what's up? Okay, I'll take a look. One sec. So this selector that we have right there will go onto the app component HTML, because the app component HTML is what actually shows your application, right? Yeah, if, go ahead, yeah, there you go. So any updates you make, it's run, it'll show. As for you, okay, if you're using VS Code, I forgot to say this, there is a Angular extension. It'll probably pop up, install it, all right? So you're gonna need it.
ng generator. 2 / Yeah. So that is. Oh, ng. Yeah.
Anybody else have a problem opening it? Oh, word, okay.
The name, whatever.
You guys good?
So you make it all right. You switch to me. Oh, he also didn't make the space like. That's what I said. Okay, yeah, well, that's why. The name, yeah, the name of the. It's to do dashboard. And then it should generate. Like. Nothing. Yeah. Oh, so it's that for some reason.
I had to like
It's called half the.
run it. Power shell that you did figure out.
You just go to that.
Just outside every second.
It could be what.
Wait, the generator.
Yeah. Because I think that's like the default.
So you just follow that guy.
Just use this.
No, you need this spot.
Oh, I actually answered everyone's questions. Cause I would have just stuck on that red text like, oh, you're good.
Oh, yes, yeah. So, yeah, but.
Oh, it opened this. I was like,
Oh, you didn't say that? Yeah.
we're so locked in.
One sec, guys, workshop's gonna start up again in like a second.
Alright.
I'm basically as good as
You know what he said? I was like, I said, yo. I said, yo,
For now, just follow it. Just follow on the back.
Oh, open up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the answer.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that? No, no, no.
You know, because coding is. We're doing Angular before the next. He's just like, no, it's like,
Okay, if you're still having problems, for now, just code. After I'm done with the workshop, come up to me. We can resolve everything on your system and then figure it out from there, okay? So like I said, the selector in Angular is going to be used to actually call it in your app component HTML, right? The app component HTML is your home. That's where you live, breathe, sleep, use the bathroom. That's where it's at. That's where it's at. App component HTML. That's where everything's going to live, right? So notice how I have absolutely nothing in there, but in my HTML for the to-do component, it says to-do dashboard works, right? So what I'm going to do, because I want this component to actually show on screen, is I'm going to call the app to-do dashboard. in my HTML. And then I'm going to save it. You'll see at the bottom of my terminal that it saved the changes. And on the top left, top left, to do dashboard works, right? The power of Angular is here. It's real. It exists. It's nice. I love this. I do this a lot. This is great. All right. That's the, what's up?
So why don't we have to do like at the beginning, why do we have to go after we have like everything over here?
You're going to generate a new to-do dashboard component like this. Did you already delete everything out of the HTML, like I said? If you go to your app component.html, remove everything from it. Okay, remove everything from it, and then you're going to generate your new component with this command right here. Generate component to do dashboard, right? What's up? While it's running, open up another terminal so you can run your other commands. Yes. Any other questions before I continue? An X? What do you?
Like they're part of the terminal.
Oh, yeah, that's part of the terminal. Don't worry about this. Worry about ng generate. My VS Code is special.
Oh,
Don't worry too much about that. It's just ng generate component. Is everybody at least kind of caught up to this point? Yay? We're good? Cool. All right. Now I actually kind of want to start adding stuff to the screen. All right. So we're going to go to our HTML. We're going to have a little bit of fun with this. All right. Now in our to-do dashboard HTML, we're going to remove to-do dashboard works now that we know that it works, right? We want to create a class, right? Creating a class in HTML is really not that hard to do. This is how you do it. I recommend that you create divs like this to help you out, okay? We could use an H1 here where, let's do an H2. Let's do an H2. I want to keep it the same as to how I had it because I don't want to have to do extra styling. But we're going to name this to do list, all right? Essentially what I did here was I created a div class called to do container and created a header named to do list. So if I am to go back to this website, I should see to do list on the top left of my screen, right? Basic HTML. If there's something in the HTML that you're confused on, just let me know. I'll explain it to you very briefly. But if you guys want to continue learning a lot of this, Google is a wonderful place, like a wonderful place. Let me tell you guys some W3 schools. I think Mozilla Firefox is kind of goated for JavaScript. But other than that, W3 schools, if you need to learn HTML and CSS, you good? Okay. HTML and CSS. Yeah. How did I open this? Opening this is ng-serve. Oh, I'll show you the command. Remember how I said ng-serve -- open? It should already be open on your browser. When I went over it, there was like 2 or 3 of them like open. Okay. So that's how anytime you hit save, unless you closed the running terminal that's running your project, it will update automatically. Okay. All right. Now that I have to-do list there, right? I actually want to create, actually, let's just wait on that. Let's go ahead and hop over to the TypeScript component. All right. Again, you guys will have access to this at the end of the workshop if you guys need to fork it, if you didn't catch up, okay? Now, in here is where I'm going to put in a lot of the logic. Now, when I'm creating a to-do list application, I need somewhere to store what it is that I need in my to-do list, right? I need something to store it. So this will hold an array of tasks, all right? Sorry, forgot one of those. So we're going to create an array called tasks. Going to make it a string. We'll set it equal to an empty array because we will actually want the user to input their own kind of tasks, right? Generally, if you want there to be tasks in there already, you can add stuff to the array, but for the purposes of this project, we want the user to actually put in their information, right? And then we need something that's going to hold the value of the new tasks in the input field. So we're going to generate a new variable, new task. This is going to be a string, and this is going to be equal to an empty string because, again, we want the user to input this information, right? Now I'm thinking, now generally, when we create applications, you want to know what your application is going to do beforehand, right? If I'm creating an application like a to-do app, I'm going to need to add something to it. I need to delete something from it, right? So my goal, the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, what logic am I going to use to actually add something to this array that we just created, right? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to create a new function called add task. And in this, we're going to check if the new task string is not empty or just spaces, right? Because sometimes you need a little bit of edge cases, especially when you're making applications like this to avoid a lot of errors. But let's say there's a user who just wants to keep hitting the add button and there's nothing to add, right? And then you just see boxes that just randomly come up and stuff like that. You don't want that, right? So in this, what we're going to do is if this dot new task dot trim, right? It's going to remove any of the white space. Dot length is 0. We want, don't copy this. Unfortunately, Copilot is killing me right now. This dot task. Sorry, one sec. I'm actually going to remove this. I don't want this to be the first check. You could just do trim. And then assuming they have something in there. Sorry, I can't type right now. One sec. Awesome. So if this dot new task dot trim, right? So if it's not empty or it's just spaces, right? We trim it down. If there's a value, we actually want to push this to the array, right? Otherwise, we need to clear it. And then we clear out the input field, right? This is what we do for the add. So if we have a task in this input box field, we want to push it to our array that we created called tasks. All right. If you're a little bit like, if you're in intro to C, if you're newer to this, don't worry about pushing. You'll learn a lot about this when you hit CS1, OOP. You guys start getting into more like advanced data structures and stuff like that. But to signify push, it's exactly how it is. Push essentially means to add it to an array. When you learn about hash maps, you will be pushing a lot of information into these things, right? So this is our add task, okay? Now, inside of a to-do app, once I'm done with my task, I want to remove it. I got to get rid of it. I hate seeing it. I don't want to continue seeing it. Get it out of my sight, all right? So we're going to create a new function called remove task, right? And this is actually going to take an index and a number because it actually needs to go through an array. If you don't know what an array is, welcome to CS. An array holds a lot of data. It's essentially a data structure. It's used to hold data. You can manipulate it. You can do whatever it is that you want with it. It's yours. It's in the palm of your hand. All right. So the goal of this is we want to get rid of this specific index, right? If we want to get rid of a task that's on the screen, we need to remove it from the array. This dot tasks dot splice index comma 1, right? So this is going to remove it based on which one we click. So again, splice isn't used virtually in many languages have different names. For TypeScript, splice is what's used to boot it out, all right? You don't want it, you hate it, you don't want to see it. But this is it, right? We just created our add task and remove task. This was it. That's all it took, right? Does anybody have any questions about this before I head over back to the HTML so we can kind of just start adding the stuff? Cool. All right. Now, for the sake of just everything, I'm gonna write the CSS real quick. If you have a question about something that I'm putting down on the CSS, just let me know. I'm not teaching CSS right now. So let me go ahead and go in. Actually, it might be easier for you guys to see if I create the HTML first so you know what it is I'm actually styling. All right. Cool. So all we have on our application right now is just the bare bone to-do list title, right? But now we need an input container. If class is equal to input dash container. All right. And here, this is where Angular comes into play. Angular has a lot of things that you can do in HTML, right? So remember how he talked about earlier that two-way binding? Well, you're going to learn today. All right. So when we have an input box, we want to actually bind it to new task. We have the ng modal, right? What this is going to do is it's going to take that user's information. My bad. I have to think for a second. It's going to take this user's information and actually bring it into the component, store it in the array, boom, display it on your screen, right? Similar to how I showed you guys in the demo earlier. So here, what I'm going to do is name this new task. I'm going to put a placeholder. Now, a placeholder, enter task. Sorry, guys. All right. Forgot syntax for a second. Why is this giving me errors? Oh, yeah. I love when. Oh, that's too big. My fault. Is that good? So now I got to do some debugging. Sorry. ng modal. Did I not import this? One sec. No, should be there. One sec. You're about to watch me start debugging for a second. Love Angular. G module. Yeah. This shouldn't be giving me any errors. It isn't a known property of input. Honestly, I'm going to keep going. Could be that I'm missing something in this demo. If it's still there, we'll fix it later. All right. That's the power of this. All right. This right here, what I had earlier, this works. Promise you it works. If is anybody else getting the same error? Okay, cool. We'll figure it out together. You good? Yeah, okay. It was an import that I was missing. Figured. It's the app module. Forms module. Oh. You positive? I love debugging. Yeah. It's probably something wrong with my I got it. Yeah, it was just something that we're missing. Everybody add this import. Yeah, probably. It's okay. For now, you're not going to need anything else from that for now. Just add the form module. And then in your imports, you're going to do forms module. All right. This will fix the problem of it giving you that error. Let me know after what, let me know when everybody's done with this, and then I'll continue. Yeah, I knew I was missing an import somewhere. It's okay, it works out. Everybody good? You're good. Take the photos. Again, if you fell behind, once we're done with this, just come up to me and I'll help you out, okay? We'll get you caught up. That way you guys can actually start adding stuff to this application. All right. Yeah. It will be on the YouTube channel. You will have the repo. You can fork the repo. You can play with it, do whatever you need to do with it, right? Okay, we're gonna go back to creating HTML stuff, right? All right. Everybody good? Cool. All right, perfect. All right. So in our input box, we want to be able to have a button. Unfortunately, Copilot is doing it for me. Let's see. Let's create a class and we're just going to make it called the add button. And then we're going to add that property click. So on click, we want to call add task, right? So upon clicking this button, I want to add this task to my to-do list. We created this function earlier, which means if I were to go to this website right now, it's probably going to look really ugly. It's fine. Ideally, this should work. Hello. Oh, well, we'll figure that out later. But if you hit add, pushes it in, we got to show it, right? It did add it to the array. I just realized that I didn't show you guys the for loop yet, that you need to actually loop through the array. What's up, Bubble?
Logic to clear the input works. So if you do that function wasn't actually working, then the input would just be.
Yeah. So HTML has something fun called unordered list. You can add it if you want, but just do it for this and for the sake of everything else. Angular has something called ng-for. This is essentially a for loop. All right. Don't get like confused, but let task of tasks, right? Has anybody here seen Python code? Kind of similar, like for this and this kind of thing, but we let task of task. We're not done with this though. We got to go back in. Let I equal index. I think I'm missing there we go. Let I equal index. And then we have a class, which is equal to task item, right? And then we want to create something called a span. And then here, it's going to be the binding for this task. All right. So ideally, if I were to go here, oh, my fault. One sec. Everybody got this? Before I show the, no? Okay. I'll give you guys a minute to catch up. We got time. So I'll fix this later. There you go. Cookie kind of hitting right now. Good. Good cookie. What's up? I don't know. Me straight up with you. I got which cookie. Like threw an M&M in there. Gino clutched up. Appreciate you. All right. We good now? And like I said, at the end, just come up to me. I'll help you guys figure it out on your computer. We have until 8 technically. Granted, I don't think any of us want to actually be on this campus till 8 o'clock, right? So this thing is like a hellhole. All right. Let's go to do. I'm gonna show the demo. Hello. All right. It works. It works. We love it. We live for it. Right? Okay, cool. Now, how do we get rid of it? That's the big question, right? Let me see. gonna have to do this one from memory, unfortunately. We're gonna do button class is equal to this may change based off of what I got on my CSS. But figure that out. There we go. Task. There we go. Okay, so this is it. We got another button to remove the task. If I go back to this, did I save this? Oh, sorry. Property I. I know dang well property I exists. That's fine. There's something I'm missing. That's what I'm saying, right? Hello. Yeah, there we go. Delete button. Cool. Sorry, guys. Long day. But this is essentially your to-do app. Now, granted, it's ugly as hell right now, so we want to fix it up. Let's go ahead and do that. I am not going to be going through a crazy amount of CSS talk, but I'll talk as I'm doing it. All right. Just because I don't know it off the top of my head. All right. So let's start with the to-do container. Right? We want a width of 350 px. Now, granted, again, you will have all this code. If you want, I can help you at the end, all right? 50 px, auto. The good thing about CSS is it is literally everywhere. You can change the styling of this. Lord have mercy, please change the styling of this. I want you guys to learn as much as humanly possible, right? We want a border radius, background. I'm gonna be straight up with you guys. I'm assuming this is white. Yep. Box shadow. Damn, I gotta add all this. 0, 4px, 8px, RGBA, which gets us a nice little range of colors. Text align, we want it to be in the center. And then we could add a font family. Now, remember, you guys can add whatever font you want. I'm just gonna do Arial and then sans serif. All right, so what I'm gonna do. So I go to this is how it looks like right now. All right. Now, granted, if you kept up with me this whole time, you should have this on your screen. If you don't, I'm sorry. I'll get you right at the end of this. But until then, this is how it is supposed to look like. Everybody with me? Cool? Cool. All right. Now, the next wonderful thing we need to change. That H2, that header, wanted to have a margin bottom. And this margin bottom is going to be 20 pixels. All right. With a nice, wonderful color of 333. I couldn't tell y'all what that was, but we're going to find out when I switch the screen. All right. Then here, yeah, it looks about virtually the same color it was before, right? So everybody good? Cool. We can have a bit like a beginner entry level HTML CSS workshop. This ain't really for that, but again, I'm here to help in case you need it. Input container. It was ugly as hell last I checked, right? We got to fix it. Wanted to be a display wanted to be a flex display. And then we want to have a margin bottom of 20 px. If I switch that, should look like that, I guess. I gotta fix a few. Oh, actually, hold up. Sorry. Display flex. Okay, cool. All right, we're gonna do the input next. It's gonna have a flex of 1. Padding. It's gonna add about 10 pixels of padding. Want there to be some border, 1 pixel solid. Don't put CCC, you're gonna put DDD. We don't like C's around here. Border radius, 4px, 0, 0, 4px. And then we want an outline of nothing. Don't want nothing there. Transition, border color, 3 seconds. All right. We'll add an input focus. At some point, you guys will learn a lot about CSS. The more you do it, the better you get at it. I'm gonna be honest, I've been doing this for a pretty good amount of time. I still look up CSS no matter how many years of experience you have with it. I mean, Caleb probably still looks up CSS, and this dude's like React Jesus. All right. So if I go back, this is how it looks now. It's a little better, right? You know, it's just a tad. Doesn't look too chunky, too weird, all ugly and shit like that, right? All right. Let's go ahead and do this. I'm pretty sure it looks like that because of the way my screen is right now. So unfortunately, it may not look great for you, but let's go ahead and style that add button. I remember that button being pretty ugly too. So we're gonna add some padding, 10px. We want there to be no border on this. We want a background color of this. Don't know what it is, guys, but off the top of my head, we want a color of hashtag FFF. All right. Again, we'll find out the colors when I move. But if we have a cursor, we want the cursor to actually be a pointer. So when I hover over it, it's going to be a pointer. Look good, right? Border radius. Want there to be 0, 4 pixels, and 0, right? Transition. Background color, 3 seconds, right? So if I go in here, actually, before I do that, I want to add this so you guys can see the nice little hover of that button. But we want this hover to be whatever this color is, right? Here, just I'll wait. Cool. All good? Cool. It looks this good, guys. Looks great. I'm loving it. You're loving it. Very basic, but that's the point of this. I want you guys to take this home and start adding stuff to this, make it better. All right. And then we want to style up the list. What time is it? 6:30? Well, list style type. We're just going to put none. We're going to put a padding of 0. I'm going to start to speed run this a little bit so you guys can start asking questions. Come up to me if you guys want me to fix any problems that you had with this. But we're going to have a display flex. This is horrible spacing. Justify content, space between. Line item center. Background color. Want there to be F9. Hashtag F9. F9. Okay. We got the margin bottom of 10 pixels. Border radius. Want there to be 4 pixels on the border radius. Transition. Want there to be a background color, 3 seconds, right? So our transition. All right. We want our task items to have a nice little cool hover as well, right? So we're gonna have background dash color, hashtag F1, F1. You like Formula One, this for you. Transform. We want this to translate. I'm gonna do Y, -2 pixels. Dot remove dash button. And again, you can also remove a lot of this stuff and like copy and paste it again and again to you kind of like understand what it is that each of these things is doing. That way you kind of get a grasp on it. I definitely recommend W3 schools. Very, very good for things like this. 4D. We're going to have the font size We want this font size to be 16 pixels, right? The cursor, again, we want it to be a pointer. And then the transition is going to be color 3 seconds. And then we also want this remove button to have a hover, not of this color, not fond of that color. About that FF1A, 1A. All right, cool. I will switch the screen in like 2 seconds once you guys get to it. Everybody all right? Good? Okay. So this is my app. This is how it looks. Similar to how I showed you guys at the beginning of the workshop. This is what we were going to be making. When I enter a task, this took us forever. Wow. Delete, delete. Something in here is not saving. Oh. Yeah. Forgot that some of these things are going to be named a little weird. Delete button. I think the add button was there as well. Yep, add button's fine. Input should be good. Input container. Perfect. All right. Should look a little bit better. Low. Okay. Something else I'm missing. One sec, guys. Wonderful things. Just got to make sure that everything in here is matching what I have in my CSS real quick. Task item. Yeah, task item. Delete button is good. Make sure that I have everything there. Cursor pointer, color 6 seconds, font size. I feel like I'm missing something, but it's fine. I guess this will do for now. Basic. Yay, we did it. Cool. So one thing that I'll say that you guys can add to this application, instead of having delete there, there's something called Bootstrap. You can use Bootstrap or Angular material. These are other things that you can learn to kind of continue adding on to this project, right? What I would do if I was making this project right now, I would actually make like a login page and start adding some user registrations, right? We want the users to be able to log in, have their own task list. Each user has a separate task list, right? That's something that you can do. Granted, yes, it might be a little bit advanced if you're not familiar with a lot of this stuff, but there's a lot of resources that can be used to help you kind of understand, how do I go about doing this? How do I go about doing that? How do I create this in Angular? How do I style this in CSS? What is this in HTML? There's a lot of this, right? The big picture I want you guys to get from this is Angular, right? It's a very beginner entry level thing. I didn't go too crazy. I didn't start adding services. I will probably be doing a heavier Angular workshop later this semester, which will cover a lot of this services, the routing. Like, we'll actually make a pretty bigger, like a lot bigger application, but it will require you to know a little bit about Angular for you to keep up, right? So I definitely recommend that you guys sit on this and try to learn it. This is a very wildly used framework in a lot of industries. React and Angular, top two. I know there's Vue, but I've never walked up to somebody and they're like, yeah, I use that. So Angular, React, pick one. My recommendation, I like Angular. I've used it in all 3 of my internships. I recommend that you guys continue to use it. If you're my mentees in here, which I see a few of you guys, this is what I'm going to be beating into your brains for the next, how many weeks we got left for the semester? Yeah, whatever good amount means, right? So for the most part, this is it. If you did not keep up to this point and you want me to catch you up or at least get you the repo, come up. Otherwise, does anybody have any questions about any of the Angular, how components work in app component, anything like that? We good? All right, cool. We good? Just before, okay, cool. So again, need help, come up. Otherwise, I hope you guys learned a little bit from this. I wasn't gonna go too in depth with the CSS, unfortunately, because I really want you guys to focus more on the Angular. But, huh?
QR code.